Well, as we all start getting ready for the local government elections coming up this year, because now that decision has been made for a little bit later this year, political parties having to now scramble and gear up for the upcoming local government elections. On Friday, to remind you, the Court dismissing the IEC's application to postpone the elections to next year. So let's turn the gears as far as electioneering is concerned. DA's Johannesburg Mayoral Candidate, Dr. Mpho Phalatse, is vowing to turn things around. Doctor, good morning to you. And I want to ask this question. As far as turning things around in Johannesburg is concerned, that's quite a plate to try and take on. Where do you begin? Electricity, corruption, a lack of water. I can keep going. Good morning. Where are you going to start?
Good morning, and thanks for having me, and good morning to your viewers as well. Well, a good place to start is to get a wholesale change of government. I think it's quite clear that the current administration has no clue how to run a city. They have managed in the 2 years, just under 2 years that they've been in charge, to completely destroy what little was left of good governance in the city of Johannesburg. All the gains of the 3 years from 2016 to 2019 gone down the drain. I've been on the campaign trail the last 2 weeks, and I've been going throughout the city from the north to the south, and it's heartbreaking to see the living conditions of people, even after all the successes that we had made in those 3 years.
I mean, these aren't even highfalutin promises that were made. Doctor, these are, I would argue, almost basic human rights. We know that water is a basic human right. Electricity, we know, is an absolute disaster in this province in particular. And I'm quite certain you've spoken to communities that have been without water for days and sometimes even weeks now. And this is going to be key in a service delivery debate, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, there is, of course, national competency at play as well, where Rand Water is currently busy with their infrastructure maintenance. But the problem is when such a thing happens, it needs to find a city that's already working. If it's coming against the background of a city that's already ailing, then we experience it worse than what we should. So Johannesburg, as it is, it does not have any form of cushioning for any shocks that may come, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's Rand Water maintenance. It throws us out completely because we already found wanting. On Saturday, I was in the south where people have been without water. On Saturday, it had been 7 days, and last month they experienced the same for 9 days. 3 schools have been closed down. A clinic has been closed down. People are fetching water from the local clinic and from the swimming pool, and from the local SAP. So that's how terrible it is. A few days before then, I was in Hospital Hills in Orange Farm, and there we see that because of the Rand Water maintenance, again, there's water shortages. However, there's a reservoir that our government, when we were in government between 2016 and 2019, we had put aside a budget for the construction of a new reservoir because we realized that we have insufficient capacity. However, the incoming government in 2019, the NC government, delayed the construction of that reservoir. It's not ready yet, and therefore we don't have reserves when these kinds of infrastructure maintenance.
Doctor, speak to me quickly. I just want to pick up on this because you said you went off to the south of Joburg, and I know you got a campaign launch event coming up this Saturday. If I have time, Doctor, I will ask you about the event and the campaign launch. I just want to get your thoughts. For those watching now, clearly it seems the ANC, and especially in the south of Johannesburg, has failed these residents on the water issue. How are you going to fix this? I imagine it's going to be very important for your campaign, but let's take politics aside. We also need to get water back to large areas of Joburg. What are you going to try and do to assist?
Well, we need to go back to basics. We need to get the city working again. So we need to get everybody on board. We need everybody to do what they've been hired to do in the city. But we need also to look at the structure of the city. One of the things that residents were complaining about, and even councillors, as I was doing my listening tours, was that the way the city is structured is not working. So we've got a department in the city called CRUM. It stands for Citizen Relationship and Urban Management. And this is the seat of the regional directors and all the regional leadership structures representing the various departments and entities in the city. However, what we found is that CRUM is completely toothless. They have no authority whatsoever over the entities. They have no authority over the depots in their own regions. And therefore, even when they receive complaints, There's nothing much they can do about them. So there is a structural issue that we need to look at in order to empower our regional structures to do what they're meant to do. But there's also behavioral issues. There's still corruption in the system. There's still, laziness and just complacency across the board. Those are things we're going to have to deal with. Operational issues. We're going to need to look at whether the flow of information is adequate, it's on time, and that we're able to respond as the city timelessly to meet the needs of residents.
Well, as I said at the start of our conversation, there's a lot on your plate, Doctor, as you get ready to gear up for the DA Johannesburg mayoral position. You're the candidate for it. There's a lot for you to deal with, and you're not even in the position as of yet. We'll see what happens with the elections. Dr. Mpho Phalatse, as always, a pleasure to speak to you. You heard from the doctor as well. There are plans to try and fix the issue regarding water in the south of Joburg, but you can hear it's just such an administrative nightmare. We're going to stay on that water story for the moment. To Dr. Phalatse, I appreciate your time this morning.